And stop recording. All right, cool. Thank you. So yeah, for the next sprint anyway, yeah. So I want you to create some documentation, right? So this is very, very important because I want you to be subject matter expert in your fields. So I'll be telling you what you need to do. Those documentation could be like answering a question, or could be you creating a blog, whatever you want to do, as long as that documentation is created anyway. So what you need to do is I want you to go to this particular site, right? So create an account, right? Then from there, you would then start to put those information there. You got 3 weeks to do this, okay? And these 3 weeks, you would come back on the third week, yeah. So, and you will do a presentation about this. I'll tell you how the presentation will go, right? So, and that is it, okay? Go onto this particular site, register, and what I'm expecting you to do is you have two options. You can create a blog, okay? Or you can also do it as a question. You are free to do whatever you want anyway. So you would create those documentation. They are easy documentation. You are also free to do research anyway. So one thing, the objective with this is like, even when you log into this site, you will have all your blogs, all your answers together on your profile, right? Which you can even put on your CV to say, this is my profile page, this is documentation I've created. I'm a subject matter expert in my field and everything. That is the purpose. And also this exercise is going to really, really help you as well to prepare for interview as well. Okay. So even though I would be giving these tasks based on roles, that doesn't mean that you cannot attempt other people's questions or documentation. For instance, if I give one to the Scrum Master and you are let's say ADM or DA, you can also attempt it as well, create the blocks. Okay, that's what I want anyway. So, that's that. And for the Scrum Master, this is something that we've not done, Scrum Master and the project managers. Okay, we've not done this, which I want you guys to actually try as well and give me feedback and put that in the report in the next 2 weeks. Okay, so now we have two reports, okay, and we have two demos, right? One is going to be end of sprint demo, which is going to be in the next 2 weeks. Okay, that's your then you have individual demo. I mean individual. So that means you have to do it individual, and it's part of assessment for your certificate, or for you to be able for us to say you went through this program and you did it. So, and also even for us to give you reference as well. So you will need to be sure that, yeah, you've done what we asked you to do. This is one of those assessments that you need to do. So, and yeah, I will repeat it in the next 3 weeks, right? That is after the demo that you are going to do in the next 2 weeks. You will do individual presentation. So you have 3 weeks to do that. And those individual presentation, I'll tell you what's going to entail as well. But before then, you need to create whether question or you need to create questions or blog answering the question I'm going to give to you. And also in your presentation in the next 2 weeks, I want the Scrum Master or the project managers to create a group, right? To create a group and add every member of your team to the group. And then we can start talking or chatting within the group. Okay. So that's another thing I want you to do. I want you to put that as a task. Okay. Create a swim lane within your team, within your Azure DevOps board, right? A swim lane. If you have not done that, I think I'm not sure anyway. So it should be career development swim lane. Okay. If you haven't got one, create one. And this task will be there. Okay. So that I've given to you individual presentation you need to create a story for that. And each one of you guys has to have their task. And when they are ready, they mark it to done. Do you get it now? So it's going to be ready in the next 2 weeks. Okay. All right. So now I would roll out all the tasks that I need you to do, or the questions or the documentation that I need you to answer, or I need you to write documentation on, right? Okay. First thing, okay, let's talk about individual one because it's very, very important for me actually. Individual presentation, what am I expecting you to do? Okay. In the next 3 weeks, you're going to do a presentation. I want you to create a profile statement, right? So 2 paragraphs about yourself, okay? So, and you're going to put that in part of the presentation, okay? And then you have 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes, and you need to speak to me, right, as an interviewer, right? So let's say I'm a recruiter, and I call you. You got 3 minutes to convince me you are the right person for this particular job, right? So I will call it like elevator pitch, right? You meet someone inside the elevator, and you got only 3 minutes before it gets to the maybe 15th floor or something like that, and you want to quickly convince the person I'm the right person for this particular job. So, and also you want to also use this for, okay, I'm a recruiter, I called you, and then you are telling me you are the right person, having seen a job profile. So you got 3 minutes to do that, okay? Then you got 5 minutes in total, okay? The next 5 minutes, the next 2 minutes, okay, you want to just go through those questions I'm going to give to you. I'm not expecting you to explain them. I'm only expecting you to put a screenshot. For instance, let's say, okay, maybe I should share my screen again. So 1 minute. So if you can. All right. So what I was expecting you in the next 2 minutes after the 3 minutes elevator pitch or speaking as a candidate to a recruiter is you would put your your documentation or your blog, everything that you've done, screenshot of that on your presentation. But I'm not expecting you to go through them one after the other. So you just say, okay, yeah, for instance, let's say this is one of the documentation that you did. So what I'm expecting you to do is to do a screenshot of that, yeah, and put it in your presentation, right? Like this now, this is one that this person has done. So, and or maybe this is not even a good one anyway. So let's go to this one. So, okay, all right. So yeah, so this is a good one anyway. So this is, yeah, what is positive and everything like that. So I'm expecting you to just do a screenshot of this and put it in your documentation, right? Another thing also, I want you to put your URL complete. For instance, if you go to Tosin now, so you can see Tosin has got 10 questions and it's got 10 answers as well. And so I want a document, a screenshot of your profile page showing how many questions you've created, how many answers you've created, or posts and everything. So like that, right? Then each one of them, right? For instance, if I go to this 10 now, it will show me the 10 questions that Tosin has created anyway. So I want a screenshot of that as well anyway. Then individual one. So but 2 minutes, you just go through them quickly. Like, okay, this is screenshot of documentation or the blog I have created on there. So now the question that you are going to answer or the topic that you are going to write documentations on. So quickly. So first one for the projects manager, right? You need to explain how to set up your favorite tool, right? Pick a tool, right? So, and talk about how it's set up. You could take Azure DevOps, for instance, or you could take Microsoft Project, for instance, or you could take any tool that you set up. Yeah, how do you set it up anyway? So then also describe the approach to project management and methodology that you are familiar with. So one, what is the approach to project management you are used to? What are the methodology that you are familiar with as well? Describe them, okay? You want to write them as a blog, okay? Individual, you are not. I'm not expecting you to write everything together. All this should be individual blog, okay? Individual documentation, if that's okay, okay? And so the next question, the next topic that you're going to write about, this is the project managers, okay? So the significance of project charter. What is project charter? Why do you use it? Yeah, how do we create one? So that should be another documentation I want you to create as a project manager. So then also I want you to write about project success, okay? How do you define it? How do you measure a project success? When you say a project is successful, what are the things that you look for? Basically, that's what I'm expecting in this particular blog or documentation. Then also, I want you to also write about risk management, yeah, in relation to project manager. What is it? Basically, what's the role of a project manager in risk management? Okay. How do you identify a risk? How do you mitigate the risk? Okay. So yeah, you can you need to be yeah innovative in your title, right? So don't just say risk management. Talk about, yeah, put a title that is captivating for people to kind of read your documentation or your blog. Okay. So yeah, next question, yeah, is about scope creep. Okay, what exactly is scope creep? Or okay, and give me an example of those. Right, a project that you worked on that's got scope creep. Okay, and when does it become an issue? Right, how do you undo it? Okay, so yeah, you want to talk about, yeah, maybe it's actually could be scope creep anyway, but I want you to talk about that. Okay, what exactly is this scope creep, and what when does it become an issue? Right. So an example of a project that there is a scope creep, yeah, and how did you, or how can you, or how have you handled it anyway? So then next question is you also need to create another blog for work breakdown structure, right? What, yeah. So talk about the concept of work breakdown structure and what's the importance of that in project management, right? So that's that. Then also, I want you to also create a documentation about how to set up or manage project timeline and milestone. Okay, how do you manage realistic project timeline and milestone as a project manager? So of course, you want to talk about this terminology. What exactly is actually project timeline? What is a milestone? So how does a project manager ensure that you have a realistic project timeline and milestone? Okay. And then also the next documentation is about resource allocation and capacity planning. Okay. As a project manager, what is your role in resource allocation? And what is your role in capacity planning? What exactly are this anyway? So that's one. So moving on to the ADM, okay, ADM. So first thing is Azure DevOps for, yeah, the Azure DevOps bot, okay. So I want you to create a blog on how to set it up from scratch, okay. How do you set it up from scratch? What are the things that you need to consider? What are the things that you look for? And yeah, so you set it up. And also please guys, all this blog right? If you can put screenshot, make it beautiful, okay? It's very, very important. And for like this one, I'm expecting step-by-step guide. That's anyone can go to this particular blog and set up Azure DevOps from scratch using your blog, okay? And next blog or next documentation that I want you to create is about waterfall and agile methodology. What is it? What are these anyway? And what are the differences? When are they used? What are the pitfalls, disadvantages? How do you prefer one against the other? So yeah, if someone wants to learn about waterfall and agile methodology, they can read up on that anyway as well. So, and the next blog is the role of Agile Delivery Manager in relation to traditional project manager. How does this particular role different from traditional project manager? Who is an Agile Delivery Manager? Is a project manager, but how does your role different from traditional project manager? Anyway, okay. And next on documentation is collaboration and continuous improvement. Okay, collaboration and continuous improvement. So I want within your documentation or blog, I want you to kind of answer this anyway as well. How do you foster a culture of collaboration within your team, and how do you also make sure your team continually improve, right, within your agile team, right? Then next question is about Scrum, Kanban, and SAFe, right? Scrum, Kanban, and SAFe. Okay, so what are these? Okay, explain what these agile frameworks are anyway. So what are the differences? Yeah, so that's one. So which is related to the maybe agile methodology I've actually asked you to do at the top. So next documentation is about conflict priorities and changing requirements. Okay. So if you do have a conflicting priorities and the requirements are changing, and how do you handle it? I want you to talk about how does this happen, right? If you say, okay, conflict requirement, priority, who are the one that is bringing these conflicting priorities, or who are the people or role that is changing requirements? Okay, in an agile environment, how can you handle them? What are the things to do, right? So is there any remedy and how to mitigate this particular risk? So I want you to write a documentation about that, okay? So then also I want you to also write about collaboration within the team, but focusing on the role of product owner. Okay. So how do you collaborate within your team? What's the role of a product owner within the team? Then how do you collaborate with a product owner, right? And what are your responsibility towards a product owner within the team? So that's one thing I can say. Okay. And also, I want you to also write about agile principles and value. Okay. How did you ensure that your team understands this principle and this value? And how do you ensure that they embrace it as well? Okay. So so it's about agile principles and agile values, but more, it's not about theoretical, but how do you ensure your team understand these principles, and how do you ensure that they embrace these principles and these values? Well, of course, you will list the principles and the values anyway. So okay, another one is the concept of sprint and iteration in Scrum, right? How does this contribute towards project delivery? Okay, the concept of sprint or iteration in Scrum, how does it contribute towards project delivery? Right. So I think the last one is about performance and the health of your team. So when you talk about the health of a team or performance of an agile team, How do you measure it? Yeah. What is the most valuable metrics that you can use to say my team is performing, right? Or my team is in a good, strong earth. Okay. And yeah. Also, you might also want to add the Tuxman theory as well. Do you get it now? That's just an inch anyway. Okay. All right, moving on to the keywords. Okay. So you've kind of started Selenium. I've seen some good setup, which I think is fine. Now, individual presentation, individual documentation now. So I want you to explain how to set up automation test using Selenium, SpecFlow, C#, okay? How to set up automation test using Selenium, C#, and SpecFlow, right? The next documentation is about validation and verification in the context of software testing. What is the difference, right? And what is validation? What is verification? When they say I'm verifying something, I'm validating, is there any difference in this, right? Educate us, right? Okay. And next one is about prioritization of test case, right? So if you're a test lead, okay, how do you prioritize a test case? Okay. And is there any limitation in this as well? So when you have a limited time during testing, what do you need to do in order to prioritize your test cases, right? Yeah. So if you have, let's say you're only given 1 hour to test, what exactly do you need to do? Okay. All right, next one. So is test plan. Okay. This is quite simple. Describe the component of test plan. And next one, another one is describe the components of test strategy. So what are the components that you put in a test strategy? And okay. And another question is about automation testing. Okay. Significance of automation testing. So when is it appropriate to automate? When is it not appropriate to automate? That's what I'm actually kind of asking for. So basically, could also put a topic at why automating? Why do you need to do automation tests? Okay, what is the reason? What's the notion behind that? Okay. And also, I want you to also talk about the concept of regression, retesting, right? And maybe bugs anyway. So explain the context of regression, its importance, and in relation to bugs and everything anyway. So you might also want to also talk about retesting as well anyway. So then next question, yeah. So this is about how to write effective test case, right? Effective test case. So in this one, I'm expecting you to talk about test design approach, right, or techniques. Okay. Well, yeah. So how do you write effective test cases? How do you write effective test cases? So what are the test design approach that you will use? Do you get it now? And in fact, you need to also talk about the purpose of test cases. Do we need to write test case? Do we get it now? We might even want to throw maybe a controversial discussion out there. Why do we need it? I don't even need to write test case. Why do I need to write my test case? Right. Motivate your argument. Okay. Right. Or if you don't think it's necessary, if you think it's necessary, why do you get? Okay. And next one is how to undo situation where requirements for a feature are not clear or incomplete. What do you do? If you have a feature that you are about to test and it's unclear or is incomplete, what do you advise people to do? Okay. And last question is about the concept of boundary value analysis and equivalent partitioning. As I think if you already written about the effective of test cases, you should have covered this one as well anyway. Well, it's good to, I just kind of been specific on that one. So data analyst, okay? For data analyst, right? So you want to explain how to, yeah. First one is about SQL Server Management Studio, right? So if you start a work or you start a job or a role and you are asked to create a documentation for a as a body, okay, or for your team on how to install or set up SQL Server Management Studio, what are you going to put there? So what I'm expecting, give me a documentation now on how you can set up SQL Server Management Studio from scratch, okay? So next documentation is the role of data analyst, right? And how can you contribute towards decision making in an organization? Okay, the role of data analyst and how does it contribute to get to decision making in an organization? Okay, so another another documentation that I want to say is when they say, okay, all right. So, okay, when we say structure and unstructured data, what does that mean, right? Structure and unstructured data. What is the meaning? Okay. And of course, you might also want to talk about the differences as well. Okay. And another one is data cleaning and data validation. What are the processes? Okay. Yeah. So what are the processes that you take towards data cleaning? And also if you want the validated data, okay, what is that? So, and another thing that I want you to also uh, talk about is ETL. What is ETL? Right. I'm not going to talk more than that anyway. So ETL, okay. Well, when they in time of data, what is ETL? Okay. So yeah, and also, okay, programming languages and tools that you are proficient with for data analysis. What are the tools? Just list them anyway. So, and what are the tools that you think a data analyst you have, and what are the tools that you think they should use? Okay. And also, next one is data visualization. Okay, data visualization. So you want to talk about what do we need to do with data visualization? What's the significance of that? And you also want to also add the tools that you can use to create visualization. Okay. So next blog will be on clustering. Okay. Clustering. Okay. So what exactly is clustering? You want to describe that. Okay. How is it useful in data analysis? Clustering. Okay. So next one is security and privacy of data. Security and privacy of data. So how do you ensure security? How do you ensure that data are secured? And how do you also ensure privacy of data during data analysis process? Okay. So another question is about joins. Okay, you talk about joins. So yeah. So what type of joins do we have? Inner join, left join, right join. Yeah. So just you want to mention that. Then last documentation is about DDL and DML in SQL. Okay. DDL and DML in SQL. Okay. So for the BA, right? Okay. So yeah, I want you to talk about how to set up Visio and Balsamiq. Okay. So I think I'm okay with Visio anyway. How do you set up a Visio? What's the purpose of using Visio? And yeah, in that aspect, okay. Explain what are the symbols in Visios, okay. So there are different symbols and processes, okay. What are they used for? The arrows, what are they used for? The diamond, what are they used for? The what's it called? Rectangle, yeah, okay. So what are the usage of this anyway? So I want you to talk about that. Okay. And also the next one is about process map. Okay. So I want you to describe that. Okay, give me a sample of a process map that you've done in your different projects. Okay, or take a site. I will just take a site, maybe Amazon, for instance, create a process map for Amazon. Right? Maybe that's, yeah, let's just use that anyway. So Amazon as a site, create a process map for Amazon. Okay. So next one is about methodology, actually. What are the methodologies that you are familiar with in the concept of business analysis? Okay. What are the methodologies that you are familiar with in the concept of projects and concept of business analysis? Right. So then next documentation is about stakeholders management. Okay. So I want you to talk about how you gather your requirements or elicit your requirement from stakeholders. What are the challenges about that anyway? Okay. And next question is about, next documentation is about SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis. What is the significance of SWOT analysis to a BA, right? What are the how can it benefit you in your role? Why do you need it? And what are the competitors or alternative analysis that you could have done? Why did you choose SWOT out of the other ones as well? So then next one, we talk about BDD and user acceptance criteria. Okay. Why do you write your acceptance criteria in a BDD? What is BDD? What language is it used for? Why do you have to write your acceptance criteria in a BDD format? Can you write it in a different format? Blah, blah. So that's fine. Okay. And next one, we talk about the tools that you use within business analysis. I think there are lots. Just take 3 of them. Talk about their uses and their challenges. Yeah, and if you, of course, how can they be used? Okay. And next one is, yeah, conflicting requirements. Okay. So as a BA, how can you prioritize conflicting requirements from different stakeholders? So I'm not talking about the same stakeholder now. You have 2 people and they're giving you conflicting requirements. How do you solve that? How do you prioritize it as well? Okay. So that is one. So then also, yeah, use case. Okay. Use case. The concept of use case. Okay. Why do you need to use these techniques, right? And how do you use it as well? And last one is about RACI matrix. Okay, explain a RACI matrix. What do you need as a BA? What do you need it for? Okay, and I think, okay, and I move to the Scrum Masters. Okay, Scrum Masters. So yeah, of course, I want you to explain how Azure DevOps is set up from scratch, from beginning to the end. So for this, yeah, I would say maybe you might need to kind of start from beginning anyway, but it would be good for you to know how it's done anyway. So they've gone through this for you. So also the next one is about Scrum and Agile methodology. What is Scrum? How does it differ from other Agile methodology? Okay. For instance, Save and XP, what is the difference? Okay. Then also, yeah, conflict management is the next one. So within Agile, there's also conflict. How should a Scrum Master handle conflict within the team, right? You want to actually create a documentation for that. So then the next one is about ceremonies, right? How do you use, what are the importance of these ceremonies within Agile? Okay. How can you make your team productive within the ceremonies? You will scrap the ceremony? Is it a waste of time? Or you think they are valuable? Why? Do you get it now? Have an argument about it. Yeah, okay. Why do you need all these ceremonies? Okay. If you are to scrap one, what will it be? If you are to choose one, which one of them will you preserve? Okay. So those are the things I want you to put in the documentation. So next one is about communication. So communication, right? So yeah, talk about how do you facilitate communication within team members, stakeholders, and product owners. What are the things that you need to do? If you have difficult stakeholders, what do you do as well? Anyway, so yeah. So, and next one is you have a team that is not adhering to Scrum practices, right? Yeah. How would you address it? Okay. Or you are moved into a team, or you're already in that team, they don't adhere to Scrum values, Scrum principles. Yeah. So how do you address it? Well, so then next one is the concept of velocity and capacity within Scrum. What are these? And what are the differences within velocity and capacity? What are they used for? What are these metrics used for? What do you need them for actually as a Scrum Master? So, and next one is like you are involved in a situation where your team cannot complete a sprint goal due to unforeseen situation. I want you to write a story, be creative, right? So how was this handled? Okay. Or maybe it's not you. John told you a story where there was his team was not able to complete their goal due to unforeseen issues. Are these unforeseen issues? And how did John address this? Okay. Write a story about that. And also, I want you to also write a documentation about definition of done, right? And definition of ready. Okay. What are these concepts? Okay. But I don't want you to just say, okay, definition of done. I want you to break it down. Okay. From BA perspective, what do you think? How do you explain definition of done to a BA when they say my story is done? What do you think they will mean? From a developer point of view, what is the definition of ready? From QA point of view, what definition of done from QA point of view? And from the whole team as a story, right? What is the definition of done and definition of ready? Okay. So I want you to kind of look into that. Okay. Next one, how do you undo changes to Scrum backlog during ongoing sprint? How do you undo changes to Scrum backlog during ongoing sprint? So I think those are the documentations I want you to look into, and we'll stop the recording, right? So that it's neat anyway.